Hi, I'm Rob at the Hayneedle Fulfillment Center in Monroe, Ohio. This is a short video on the assembly of the Radio Flyer all-terrain cargo wagon. The estimated time in this assembly is around half an hour to 40 minutes, and the tools you will need are an adjustable wrench, a pair of pliers, a hammer, and a flathead screwdriver, all of which are not included. We'll start by opening the box and removing all of our pieces. Locate your instructions. On the front you'll find a parts and hardware list. Take a brief inventory to make sure you have all the pieces needed for this assembly. First we'll be assembling our front axle. For this we'll need our two pieces labeled as 101933, our piece labeled as 101945, and finally our piece 101599. We'll be using our hardware. First our bolt labeled as 102920, this nut labeled as 102926, and our pin labeled as 103194. We'll be using our crescent wrench for this part of the assembly. Start by taking this piece first and placing your bolt in the bottom part, which labeled out. Then place up through this part next. Then attaching this part on top of that, and finally this part again. Make sure out is facing up. Now place on the nut, tighten into place using your adjustable wrench. Once you have your nut and bolt tightened, take your pin and slide through both your bolt and your nut, and take your pliers and bend down on the opposite side. Bend one to the left and one to the right. Using 6 of our bolts labeled as 102748 and 6 of our nuts labeled as 102768, we're going to install our front and our rear axle labeled as 102842 to our wagon bed, which is labeled 101597. Start by taking a bolt and sticking it in the bottom hole of the top side of your wagon. Then take your rear axle and place through the bolt. Then using one of your hex nuts, hand tighten into place. Take your second bolt and place through to your back axle, using the hex nut again to hand tighten into place. Next step is to take your adjustable wrench and tighten it onto the bolts, and using your flathead on the opposite side, tighten into place. Be sure not to over tighten to avoid stripping out the bolts and nuts. Now take your front axle and line up the holes in the back of your base with the holes in the axle. Using the same hardware, tighten into place using the same actions as the last step. Next, take your two pieces labeled as 102843, and with the hole, simply slide onto your back axle, making sure the end part is flat and matches up with the base. Repeat this step for the opposite side. Then using the same hardware and tightening as in the last step, secure into place. Next we'll be attaching our tires. To do so, push on like so, and take your red hubcaps, and using your hammer very carefully tap until it is fully down. Repeat this step for your 3 remaining tires. Now we'll be installing our handle. To do this, we'll be using our bolt labeled as 102755. Just simply place the bolt through the bottom of the handle and the front axle. Now take your last hex nut and using your adjustable wrench and your screwdriver, tighten into place. Now using our remaining screws in our brackets 101554, line up each bracket with the pre-drilled holes all the way around the wagon and use 2 screws and tighten into place using your flathead screwdriver. After you've attached all your brackets, all that's left to do is slide your front, back, and side panels into the brackets. After all your sides are on, you'll have your finished wagon.